A very warm welcome. My name is Michelle de Klerk. I'm the founder of the Women's Chapter, and today I'm speaking to one of our wonderful members, Abby Adams, who's the founder of Project Women, as part of our W.Talks series here on LinkedIn Live. Abby, thank you so much for making time to join us today.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, Michelle. I love talking with you. It's a highlight.
I know. In fact, we were chatting so much that we were a little late to go live. We are due to have another speaker join us today, Stella Kamba, but I think she might be running late or have been delayed. So what we're going to do is just crack on with our conversation, have a chat, and if she's able to join us, great. If not, we'll have plenty to talk about. For those that have joined us on LinkedIn Live, feel free to pop any comments in the chat. Equally, afterwards, this will be on LinkedIn. So if you want to keep commenting or add anything after you've had a chance to watch it retrospectively, that is absolutely fine too. And we'll also be downloading this and uploading it to our YouTube channel. So there'll be 2 different places that people can watch it. And I see Stella is here. So let's add her.
Oh,
hello. Welcome, Stella. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Hi, Abby.
Hello, darling. Good to see you.
Good to see you, ladies.
Welcome. I was just doing some kind of housekeeping thing, Stella, so you didn't miss anything. But I think what we should kick off with is an opportunity for each of you to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit more about your businesses, but more importantly, your why, because I think these conversations are a great opportunity for people that know you, but equally people that don't, or just are being introduced to you and your businesses for the first time, to get kind of under the skin of why you do what you do. And I think for me, that's always the most fascinating part of speaking to business owners and senior professionals. So, Abby, can I start with you? Please do introduce yourself.
Oh, do you know, can I just say that when you said get under the skin, I was like, yes, that's exactly what I love doing. I like getting under the skin. Hello, awesome humans. My name is Abby, and I am a high-performance coach that gives busy, passionate women like you time to continue exerting their authority and power in what they love by taking the juggle out of their health, creating a whole success that they can build their life on. I am passionate. I just love creating that time and space for women to fully explore all aspects of their health and bringing it together. And I do that one-to-one, but I also do it through the collective that is Project Woman, which is an online space that is changing and elevating and creating a dynamic conversation around all aspects of women's health.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Abby. Stella, over to you.
I love it. I'm Stella. Hi, everyone. I run fitness workshops and retreats, and they're both for men and women, usually for busy professionals in the city who find, they are working hard and need time away from the routine. And so we do all the planning so that they can come away with us and not make any decisions, and come back to their life revitalized.
Bliss.
We were actually just saying, Stella, before you came on, and it might be interesting to get your perspective on this, because I know one of the reasons that you started More Life Adventures was because you wanted to kind of recalibrate your work-life balance and help people who struggle with that to have more downtime. But we were talking about this always-on culture that many of us, I think all of us, are slaves to most of the time. And even when you do go away on holiday or you take time out, there is always the distraction of emails on your phone, WhatsApp messages, this, and that pressure for us to keep on top of things. And Abby asked this question, do we ever really stop? Do we ever really take time out? And I wonder what your perspective is on that, because obviously you organize retreats to help facilitate that for people.
Yeah, we do take time out. I also want to, make peace with that always on culture, because I come from a place, like when I was growing up, nothing was ever happening around me. And I was craving to get to the age of 18 and leave home and get to a place where it's all happening and it's always on and, life is happening, And so I think it's a privilege to be in a place where opportunities are out there, things are happening. I don't take it for granted. But of course, we are, cyclical beings. We need rest for the amount of intensity that we put out. So, and I forgot the question. What was the question?
No, but, well, the question was just really about kind of, you know, what your perspective was around this always on, and how that, you know, do you have people that come to your retreats feeling that way or wanting to escape from that, or just finding a little more balance? Because I think, you know, I was just saying to Abby, I was away last week, but I was still on emails and essentially just working in a different place. So I don't know if that classifies as a holiday, but I think we have carved out, many of us, this hybrid kind of work existence, which in many ways is amazing compared to how things might have been before. But I think it does often contribute to this hamster wheel of never stopping and actually having your mind still. Like, it takes hard work to find that, or to establish I don't know, a place. And I think, Abby, you probably, because I know you meditate and you're very much about kind of movement, and both of you are, you know, a big part of what you do is moving your bodies. Like, does that contribute to helping to quiet your mind?
Oh, yes. Yes.
100%.
Oh my goodness. Do you know, for me, the movement really allowed me to work out my emotional response. And I feel I might have shared this before. But when I was training in Miami, and at the end of each day, we had to move across the floor, this massive warehouse, with the mobility skills that we'd learned. I'll never forget, I'd only just got there, and I remember getting down on the mat and was ready to go across, and I wanted to do all these moves that we just learned, but I froze, and the good girl came out in me, and it was, if you get this wrong, everyone's going to hate you. If you get this wrong, but all of these things started whirling around in my head, and I could feel my body tighten and clench. And so I then moved across the mat in a lesser way than I knew that I could. And when I got to the end, I was so disappointed in myself, because when I look back, what does it matter if I got it wrong? Because you can't get movement wrong. If you're enjoying it and you're releasing your body, that's what it's all about. And so for me, movement is what processes all of those emotions. You know, when they come up, you literally are able to move yourself through them if you understand your body. And so I think movement, whether you are in the gym training, whatever it is, you know, movement is the fuel of life, and it assists those emotional outbursts 100%.
And the other thing I would add is nature. I think the one thing we've lost, really, that is a big loss. It's not so much the always on culture. It's the fact that we move in these man-made spaces that don't allow nature to come in. You know, we've banished nature from our lives. And I know, Michelle, both of you actually live closer to nature than I do. But I find that what kills joy and energy more often than just being always on is just not having contact with nature. So we pair movement with nature, and we take people away for a few days to like bring health back. I think as you were speaking, Michelle, about the various stages of switching off, like you can take yourself, it's perfectly valid to take yourself to a different place and still work. Like that is also a break. It's what level you need, right? It's, you know, if you are really ready to give up the phone, there is also that level of like, take my phone, I'm not going to see it for a week. I'm just going to be, you know, in nature, or doing like a surfing holiday, or doing a weightlifting holiday, or what have you. There are levels. I think, you know, I've taken myself off to the mountains before to work, and that was a break because I was just surrounded by white snow, and I was still able to, you know, we can't always go on holiday. You have to work sometimes. So I think if you can't, and if you don't think that you are at the point where you really need to give your phone away and be away from it, then I think it's perfectly valid to say, I'm just going to hire a cabin in the mountains and go there and work. It's going to be great. You know, it's not, I'm still going to get a break from routine, and I'm still going to have some space away from the hustle and bustle to process thoughts, emotions, to have different thoughts, to listen to the birds. So I think
it's stepping out of that daily grind, isn't it? It's what you're used to, and to be able to step out of that is what creates the clarity you need to move through it, because sometimes it's not working, but we can't feel it or see it, can we? I think there's an interesting stat actually, where human beings now get just 17 minutes a day of sunshine because they're working and living so much indoors. 17 minutes. I mean, that's not a lot, is it? And when you consider how much we need for vitamin D and all of these cases of sad disease, you know, I never forget a yoga teacher that I met years ago said he suffered from that, but what he realized was is in winter he needed more out time, and so he would get himself out, rain or shine, in winter with it, whatever, and he said it actually made him feel a lot better.
First thing in the morning as well. You're so right.
Yeah. I've been reading, I'm almost finished it, Elizabeth Day's How to Fail, and obviously her podcasts are amazing, but I've had realized I could never read her book, so that was my thing last week, was kind of like, I need to read this, but I've been really enjoying it. And she speaks about, there's an instance or sort of an anecdote that she shares about how she walks in the rain and it's freezing cold, and she used to kind of take these long walks on purpose, cold, because she needed to be reminded that she was like alive, that she could feel. And there is something about that, like when you were saying about getting outside in the cold, even something about that feeling of or being reminded that you are alive, that you feel, that you can respond to your environment, that is really liberating. And obviously as a South African, when I moved here, everyone was like, oh, isn't the weather awful in England? And it's probably only in the last sort of 10 or 12 years since I've lived in the countryside that I have really appreciated the weather here. But that's because I get outside regardless of what the weather is. If you've got the right kit, if you've got the right clothes, you can go outside, and it's really beneficial. Like, and what you were saying, Stella, about first thing in the morning, just to get some light in your eyes. And even if it means walking in the rain, like, there's something awesome about that.
Yeah. There's something else we found, because my company is called More Life Adventures, and it's about bringing more life. Challenging things that are challenging for you are actually really beneficial. We put people through like it's not an, we don't do army boot camps, or anything boot campy at all, but we do have a few things dotted around that are physically challenging. And you always have a guide, it's always as safe as we can make it. But for example, in Madeira, we did a really big hike up to above the clouds, and it's a hike, you're not going to die, but it is physically challenging. And I think after that, people do feel like a sense of achievement, a sense of like, oh my gosh, I feel more alive. My body has really done something I'm really proud of. I think sometimes, walking on flat surfaces and sitting at desks, it's not exactly something that brings you life. So yeah, sometimes doing hard things that we, in cities we don't have to do. You can order your Deliveroo and so on.
It's a reset of perspective though, isn't it? I mean, I had this experience with my 9-year-old recently where he became so emotional over not being able to swap a Pokemon card. One of his friends wouldn't swap it, and so emotional. And I see the reality is so distorted, and it's the same for us, isn't it? Unless we challenge what we believe to be true, that reality tends to get smaller. And so the trauma gets bigger, even when it's not that big. And so I totally agree with you, Stella, being able to challenge that. And it takes stepping out of what you currently live in to appreciate that. And again, like you, running the Project Woman Experiences to encourage women out of the environment that they feel that they have to be in, because without them it would fall apart. There's so much expectation and judgment there. And what these women realized was that the value found in their health by taking that time out is exponential. It's unbelievable. We had one woman who could not stop singing, and she said to me, it's because I can't feel that I sing back in my day-to-day life. It's something that I really enjoy. And she did not stop. And you could see the energy within her just building and building and building. But we have to be able to take that time out, don't we, to experience that. And I think that's courage in itself, because how many times have you hovered over the book? Can I? Should I? Can I? Can't I? It's just that mind game that gets played out.
Yeah.
And the am I worth it? Am I worth spending all this money on myself?
Or am I allowed?
Mm.
Am I allowed to do this? Yeah.
But I think also part of the boundary pushing side of things, and then that sense of accomplishment that comes after you having done something you didn't think you could do, or awakening a part of yourself, is also a greater appreciation for the power of our bodies. And I think so many, women, but men too, struggle with that appreciation and being kind of aware of how powerful our bodies are. And we spend so much time hating ourselves or being critical of certain parts, or and all of these things. But actually, if you step back and think about how remarkable our bodies are and what they do for us and how they carry us around every single day and deal with everything that we put in them or throw at them or load onto them, when you do things like that, when you have those senses or those kind of instances where you get a sense of accomplishment, it can foster more of a love for yourself and a gratitude for what your body can actually do. I'd love to just take a step back, because I think both of you have really interesting kind of backstories, and it would be great for those that are listening to hear a little bit more about why you came to found your respective businesses, and I guess what brought you to that point. Because one of the things that I love about female entrepreneurs, and I know that it's the case for men as well, but is that we solve problems that we have by starting businesses. But because we don't only want to solve our own problem, we want to help other people too. And so that kind of like, what is the problem that you each solved or set out to solve in starting your businesses for yourselves, but that where you knew it would benefit others as well? Abby, can I start with you?
Of course. For me, it's giving the authority back to the woman in regards to her health so that she can build a whole success. You cannot have success, I feel, in your business or areas of your life if there is an aspect of your health that is outstanding, because the platform and the foundation from which you project yourself from isn't whole. And so we all know when we've got a pain in the body, or when there's a pain in the body, it makes you feel uncomfortable. You're unable to communicate as effectively as what you can. It's clearing that up in the belief that the chaos is within you and that your body is broken. So for me, it was when I learned about my period at the age of 34, and I've been menstruating since I was 14, I was blown away at what I didn't know about myself. About what my body needs, but most importantly, how I was communicating with myself and therefore the outside world, and why things kept happening to me. And then I was able to change that. And then that changed not only my perspective, but what life gave back to me. And so for me, that's the importance of it, is to give women the full understanding of what feminine health is, how wonderful it is, what an adventure it is, so that you can create a whole success that supports you going through these changes, going through perimenopause and menopause, so that you don't keep reverting back to that really old, out-of-date habit that it's your fault, it's your body that's to blame, and all of that. So that was the reason why I set up Project Woman and why I do what I do.
Amazing, thank you. How about you, Stella?
I think burnout was the problem I was trying to tackle, and I got a few of those in my 20s and 30s. And then I started seeing it in my clients, like not sort of the kind of burnout that makes you want to stop everything and go to the jungle and live alone, but the kind of like, I'm grinding, but I don't see the result of my effort. And I had, like, famously, I quote this client, I hope she doesn't like hate me, but I had a client go on holiday and came back completely transformed. And I thought, here is proof of what I think, of what I suspect everybody needs. Not just, hey, let's all down tools and go on holiday, but if I, as a PT, can offer a more wholesome experience than the gym experience, then that's what I want to do. And also for myself, let's be honest, I was burning out in the city. Like, I wasn't seeing the sun. I wanted to have a life where I can train, but also travel. I wanted to give that. I had that as a kid. You know, my mum used to send me to camps, activity camps, and I would spend a month rock climbing and canoeing and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, when you get to a certain age, all these things stop because they are huge luxuries. But that memory of happiness stayed, because I didn't have a great childhood, not because of anything was wrong with my parents. It was just not great. But those were the memories that stuck with me, you know, being free in nature and being active. And I thought, you know, when I close my eyes and being with other people, when I close my eyes, that's what I dream of. That's what I dream happiness is. So this is what I've ended up providing for people. I think, you know, along with the movement and the nature, being together with other people makes you reconsider your beliefs, your, you know, like Abby was referring to, your self-compassion. You know, when someone else says, hey, you're beautiful, you know, you've heard it, you hear it from someone you've never met before. You realize, oh, maybe I am beautiful. You know, maybe I can do big things. So the power of community also really helps. So I was like, what is it that we need? What is it that humans need to feel alive? Also, my dad died, let's be honest. And I just suddenly reconsidered, okay, what is it that I really want to offer this to, you know, in this life? And let's not wait, because life is really not that long.
Yeah.
So I think that's what expedited the whole thing. My dad passed away in September, and then I was quickly thinking, how can I change life? How can I offer what I really want to do? So I just sat down and thought, it's training, nature, and connection that I want to offer. So this is what More Life is about, you know, move, connect, explore. I sound like a broken record, or I think I do, but then, you know, maybe other people haven't.
It's lovely. Thank you for that, Stella. Interestingly, my dad died shortly before I started my business too. I think there is something about that kind of wake-up call around your mortality, and that you realize you don't have forever. And if, you know, you need to kind of live the life you want, or if you start figuring out the life you want, and then put it into practice. It's quite interesting. And I mean, I wonder if there's anyone that listening that, you know, that resonates for them, where we have these things that happen to us. And of course, and you know, one of the things I think when you lose a parent, because there are lots of people in our community who've had a similar experience, it's the natural order of things, right? That's supposed to happen, that your parents move on before you do, but it doesn't make it any less, you know, traumatizing. It can be really be a punctuation point in your life where you do have to stop and think about what comes next. So thank you for sharing that, Stella.
My pleasure.
Abby, what do you think women are missing in their health when it comes to their health? Because I know you were sort of speaking about it, and I always like to think of health as a journey rather than a destination, because it always feels like there's something more we could be doing, right? And which the flip side of that is that it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
But, you know, what are we missing, and what do you talk to your community about trying to put into place so that they can feel more connected with themselves?
Well, it's always about time, isn't it? Time. I read a really great quote actually over the weekend on LinkedIn, funnily enough. Michelle, we was talking about that earlier. And it was about a woman who had been on an autoimmune journey, and it had been debilitating. And she quoted, "I call BS on not having time." Because really and truthfully, it's just, I don't want to deal with what's going on underneath my skin. And so when we get underneath that, we look at it's emotional. And a lot of the time we don't include the emotional aspect of our health in with health, because we don't feel that it's got anything to do with it. But you could be eating the most organic food in the world, doing every exercise humanly possible. But if you hate yourself, if there is a negative conversation going on within your body, nothing's going to stick. Nothing will stick. It will just keep dropping off. And we see this so often, don't we? I tried this and it didn't work. And I tried that and it didn't work. Well, how do you feel about yourself? Well, I don't really like myself. Well, you don't spend time with people that you don't like, do you? So again, it's looking at the emotional aspect of your health. it doesn't have to be so scary. It's like you said, the journey, I like to call it an adventure. When we truly understand what female health is, we don't feed this, when people say the patriarch, I'll be really honest with you. I see women over and over again, like wanting to tear down the patriarch, but feeding it so often with their emotions and the way that they are living their life. And I know that's incredibly scary, and this might trigger some people, but it's your choice. It really is your choice. I know that there might be conflict out there, but when you are in an environment that wants you to be your greatest, your healthiest, more you, that's when it becomes easier, because you've got allies behind you. Your environment doesn't want you to change because it can't. It doesn't have the time. It's not necessarily that you don't have the time. It doesn't have the time for you to make time for yourself. But this is where it's so important to reach out and find, such as Stella and More Life Adventures, such as Project Woman. We want you to create that vital time for yourself so you can find out exactly what it is you need. Because it might be the emotional side of your health that you're looking for, or it might be the biochemical, it might be digestion, it might be what is it? Focus on that, everything else starts falling into place. We don't make time the excuse.
What do you think, Stella?
Did you tumbleweed just went across? Then everyone just knows me on social media.
No, Abby, come on. You speak the truth. Sometimes it's hard to hear, but it doesn't mean it shouldn't be told. I think what I see is, for my own life, let's face it, you only get to health when you've been through a crisis. Well, I only got to full health, or as full as I have, through going through unhealth, through burning out and just feeling so uncomfortable that I was like, there's got to be a better way. And my mom, bless her, she always has heaven for her is health. And she has nutrition in high regard, and she, sees nature as something important, and she, in her own way, she really values health. And I think I got that from her, that there is an ideal out there of great health. And so I think that is a bug that we all need to catch, like Abby. Abby's spreading it out there, and hopefully I am as well.
So for me, my trauma started in my childhood, and I believe that that's fueled me as to where I am today. I had no choice back then. I believe that we have so many choices when we understand them. I don't want my past to fuel my future. And I honestly believe that we don't have to get to that burnout point. But here's the thing. It's almost as if it's a rite of passage. Women go, I can see that I'm heading towards burnout. I knew I was going towards burnout. What makes you think that that's okay? Just out of curiosity, I'm just very curious on this. What makes you think that I need to go towards burnout to make that change? Or it's almost as if it's normal. We talk about burnout now like stress. It's very flippant, isn't it? I'm very stressed. Oh, I had burnout. I went to burnout. And the way that we speak about it is absolutely normal. And it was so debilitating, but it was, oh yeah, I went to burnout.
I think it's this idea of sacrificing yourself for a greater cause. And, it could be your children or something else. And women and men tend to think, well, if it's for my children, it's worth or if it's for my employees, it's worth the sacrifice, until you have nothing else to give and you are burnt out, and then everybody suffers.
So being a child that's come from this, where my mum said that she was doing it for me and my sister, we never asked for it. I now see the flip side of that. Are you really doing it for your children, or are you really fueling your own emotional needs? And this is what I mean by coming back and understanding those emotions, because I will be really honest with you, being in that situation, most of the time it's all about you. And I say that wholeheartedly, and I say that from experience, and I say that from running my own business and having to look at myself and say, was I doing that for my children? Actually, no, it was fueling this emotional need within me to quantify, qualify my value as a human being to be here. So you know, if you want to talk about this more, I am always here for this space. Let's look at the real emotional core of what drives us. What drives us. And this is like talking back what me and Stella do with the movement, understanding your movement, the impact that has on your emotional responses, because it's armored in this body. You move how you feel, and that reinforces it time and time again.
I think too, I mean, something that's kind of come out of what both of you had said, and I sort of feel like almost kind of like a sort of a guttural physical reaction to it when you were sort of speaking about, Stella, you know, realizing that you were uncomfortable and you needed to do something. And I think one of the challenges for a lot of people is kind of finding that point or taking the leap to actually make a change, because change is terrifying regardless of who you are. You know, there are very few people who are not afraid of change and trying new things, like even if we don't admit it. You know, making new friends or trying something, doing something new with your body or anything like that, it's frightening. And I think one of the things, I mean, just listen to you, I feel great admiration that both of you you made change, and it's, I guess, inspiring more people to realize that that's accessible for them. It's in reach.
I think we've talked about this before. COVID gave people permission, because there was so much change and everything was up in the air. It was like, well, maybe this is the time for me to make those changes that I've been wanting or feeling like I should be making. So now is a new era for a lot of people. Maybe it's more challenging in some ways, but lifestyle changes, I feel like people sometimes need permission. Like Abby was saying, Abby's right. You know, it's always about your own emotional comfort at the end of the day. But sometimes you don't feel like you have permission to do anything different, or your imagination doesn't even go there. Oh, life could be different, you know. But because of, you know, COVID threw a lot of things up in the air, and obviously I don't wish anything like that to happen again. But I think sometimes life just puts you in the launch. What do you call that? The launch pad.
Well, and again, I think for, you know, COVID was obviously that period very difficult for people, both personally and for many, many businesses, and many businesses didn't survive it. But I think for whatever reason, and I think there were some business models that were obviously much harder hit than others, but it was a time to look for opportunity in adversity and to try and kind of keep our heads above water and look for new ways to do things, or open up new channels of business, or new ways of communicating with our communities or our customers. And, you know, and I know, Stella, that you know, you had to do that because you were running physical retreats, and then you had to pivot, but you've come back stronger. And I know you're running retreats in loads of different locations now, so it would actually be great for you to tell us a little bit more, because I'm pretty sure that there are people listening going, I want to go on one of those retreats. Where are they, and where can people find out about them?
Yeah, it's true. COVID did give us wings in a way. It wasn't obvious for a while. For a while, we were doing nothing and scratching our heads. And then we started basically doing UK events, UK trips, which I think was something I've always wanted to do. You know, it was never about, oh, I want to offer this all singing, all dancing luxury holiday. That was never me. I wanted to be able to say to a busy individual who has a job in the city, hey, you can take 3 days off, like Friday to Sunday, and come away to nature with us and train and connect with some new people, eat good food, and then come back to life, come back to London, refreshed, you know, and you know, go all into your work and your daily routine, having done something different and feeling energized, and also feeling like there are options for you. Because in my 30s, I just didn't have options to get away from routine. And so I think it's really important for people not to burn out, to just have options to do different things. So anyway, COVID, you know, travel stopped. So we thought, okay, what can we do in the country? So we discovered a few places that we can go to, and we've been going to them ever since, which like along the Devon coast, beautiful part of the world that I had imposter syndrome about telling the Brits where to go on holiday because I'm not from this country. And then I realized, actually, not many people know these beaches, you know?
They don't.
So it was amazing to suddenly feel like, oh my God, I'm offering something and people love it. So that's one thing that happened. And then since then, we have been to Mallorca and Madeira, and we're going to Cape Town. Well, Cape Town next year. So I know you are from Cape Town, Michelle. So, and so, yeah, it did give us, we also did, let's face it, I was very tied in my thinking that, if something, like you said, with the fear of change, like if I'm not sure 100% that something will succeed, I don't want to try it. But then we did this accelerator, and I really should mention them. They're called Startup Core Strengths. And they just gave us time to run experiments, and they literally called them experiments. Now, experiment equals sometimes you have to blow money just to experiment, which is not fun. But we just thought, I just thought, let's just try it as an experiment. If it fails, we'll never do it again. And I'll walk away from it. But we tried Mallorca in that sense, and it was a struggle at first, but now it's going really well. This next trip has a lot of people booked on it. We tried Madeira. It was amazing. And now we're going to try Cape Town. So and we've gone back to Crete, and we're running, that house that I started with, which is my mum's house, and I put the outdoor rig in it, and it's by the beach. We're making use of that even more now, because people just want somewhere to go that is tried and tested, and we don't charge a lot of money. We just say hire a room, book a room, and you can just train as you like, and we'll take you on a few trips if you want. So Crete is our sort of like entry level. If you want an escape outside of this country, come to Crete. And if you want an all singing, all dancing, like everything is planned for you, you don't need to think about it, we have Madeira, Mallorca, and Cape Town.
And if you don't have time to do a full retreat, then you can do one of the UK ones.
Mm-hmm.
There really are no excuses.
So it's not ready as a product launched yet, but the next year is going to be a lot more about the UK and just offering low cost opportunities to escape. And I say low cost I shouldn't really say low cost, because cost is different to everyone, but compared to what we've been offering, we don't want to make it so hard for people to part with money. And I'm really careful about money and asking for money, maybe too careful, but yeah.
Thank you. Abby, I'm going to ask you about your retreats and your events, but first, there's a question I have for you, and I want to make sure we get it in before we end.
Sure.
Is that you speak about, and I've heard you speak about this before, women being underwhelmed rather than overwhelmed. I'm interested to understand what that means.
Are we ready? Sit back, grab your cup of tea. Are we ready? Okay. So brilliant, Stella. You knew it was coming, didn't you? What I mean by that is, when I went out and trained in Miami, I was in a mixed movement camp where we was moving our bodies from 8 to 10 hours a day through martial arts, sparring, boxing, animal locomotion, yoga, you name it, we'd done it. And it was part of a healing process for me as well as an education. And I realized young women have never been encouraged to feel the full power of their body. From a long time, when I was growing up, it was a young lady wouldn't do that. A young lady's not allowed to do that. Hone it in, bring it back, sit down, be quiet. I never tested the parameters of my body until I was 39. And there's this powerful force within me. We talk about communicating our power. We talk about expressing our power. But verbally, that's only a small percentage of what you actually can do. This is powerful. And when we move it in a way that we understand power, it changes everything from the way that you think, feel, be, do, express. Women are sitting, and it's a lot like men, but we are sitting in a chair-like position for so many hours a day. Look what that does to your body. It slows everything down. And we wonder when adversity and challenge comes towards us, why it feels so overwhelming. Because when you move your body in a powerful way, you are powerful. You realize your power, you realize your capacity, and challenge, you're able to face it. when we don't move this body, again, you know, I use my wonderful grandmother as a reference point here. Her movement has declined over the years, and the more it declines, the smaller her world gets. The smaller her world gets, the more amplified something is. You know, from forgetting to phone me, it's an emotional, oh my goodness, I forgot to do, you know, everything seems so much bigger than what it is. And for me, that's what I feel. A lot of women are underwhelmed because they just don't move enough, and they don't move in a way, as Stella brought up earlier, that challenges their body. We need to be challenged to grow, and we know that from a mental perspective. We know that from adversity, we grow and we expand and we move forwards. It's the same with the body. The body wants challenge. The body needs it to understand where it stands in the world and how to stand there. So that is what I mean by women being underwhelmed.
Love that.
I love that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely underwhelming. I think like underwhelming living is no living. You know, you're not living really. You're just existing, or you are performing. You're trying to meet the the requirements of the life that you've created. But there is so much more out there, and I think Abby, frankly, you know, because I was not necessarily. Maybe I was told those things that you describe. You know, just behave nicely, be exactly, be quiet, be small, be really small, like be careful, always be small. Don't get big. Oh, I see some bulging. And there was a lot of that, and a lot of like, what are the rules? I need to be within the rules. And I think that is permission to get outside of those rules would be fantastic for so many women. I mean, for myself included, you know, I think movement, I wasn't necessarily a very active child. I was kind of socially active, but then sort of found CrossFit, and then CrossFit exposed me to different sports. And I thought, wow, there is so much that I could possibly do. And then, you know, through CrossFit, you realize there are martial arts out there, and there is dance. You know, I could just do so many different things that I didn't do as a child, which is ironic because usually as a child, you do all those things that children are not afraid to do. But I was a very scared child, I think. I think of the fear of sort of not fitting in, maybe.
But I think that comes down to not being given the opportunity to express yourself fully, to go and play. You know, I had a dad that made me go and climb trees and fall out of them. You know, so I was very, very prepared at bouncing from a very young age. So for me, it was that's the underwhelm. You know, that's the underwhelm, not really going into that power. But we speak of these spaces for women to do that. That's exactly what Project Woman does with our experiences. We create these weekend experiences, and I don't call them retreats. It's a different mind frame. It's a different framing of it, because I don't think women need to retreat anymore. I don't think that serves them. I think they need to experience life. They need to experience their bodies. They need to experience what their emotions truly mean and need in forms of communication. Because right now, there's a lot of miscommunication with our emotions, such as anxiety. You know, I speak with a lot of women about anxiety. And once you get underneath the conversation of that, we realize it's excitement. Wow, let's turn anxiety into excitement. How do we express that? Because I want to keep going towards that emotion more than the anxiety. And it's understanding the tools to get us there, not there. So this is what I bring that beautifully on, don't I, Misha? We was going to head that direction anyway, weren't we, with these?
Yeah.
That is what these Project Women experiences are all about. You know, we've got a half day one in Devon on the 9th of July at a beautiful place called High Grange in Lyme Regis. I'm very excited by this. And then we have the biggie next March at the Rewilding in Lancaster. And that's like your festival of life. That's where women are going to come and gather, and we're going to start the year with the spring energy, with our feminine health in the forefront, and we're going to fuel our year with the feminine. You know, not taking away from the masculine, not at all, because we need both. We understand that we need power and pause, everything in harmony. But that is the core of where women are going to find that resolution, that revolution.
Brilliant. Well, that brings us perfectly to the end of our conversation, but I feel very grateful to have been here with both of you today and to have been inspired and filled with admiration, and also given a little impetus to maybe make some changes or do some brave things. Because I think what you were talking about, underwhelm, Abby, just kind of it's, and this is sort of a vulnerable thing for me. I think that there are many of us, and I've certainly felt this way at times in my life, where I think, is this it? Like, you work hard, you do everything you're supposed to do, but is this it? Like, is there not more? And I think both of you are providing platforms and tools for people to unlock more, move from that place of, is this it? Like, is this how it's supposed to be? And to ask for more, to take more. Because we don't really need to ask, do we? And there are no rules. Like, we're speaking about the whole good girl thing, and I'm very passionate about this. That whenever you do feel like you're breaking a rule, you need to ask yourself the question, who made up the rule? Like, who said?
Yeah.
And most of the time, nobody said, because it's a stupid rule. And
an entire sort of, it goes back to hundreds of years ago, but actually it doesn't serve anybody anymore. And
and because we've realized that those rules just, like, somebody made them up once, and they don't really, they don't apply. And we do need to get better at taking what we want and putting ourselves first and prioritizing that time and asking ourselves those difficult questions. Like you were saying, Abby, when we do something, why are we doing it? Are we doing it because we say we're making sacrifices for other people? Is it fulfilling some need in us? And is it really just masking a change we need to make to unlock our potential? So thank you, both of you, for such precious time. I'm very, very grateful. And for those that have been listening, please do head over to More Life Adventures or to Project Women, and to find out more. We'll paste the links to their respective websites in the comments on LinkedIn, and this will sit on LinkedIn as an event. So if you've come in halfway or even at the end, you can go back to the beginning and watch the entire recording, as well as on the Women's Chapter YouTube channel. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, both of you.
Thank you.
Have a great week with you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.